Hello and welcome to the session on Abraham Maslow's hierarchical theory of motivation. Hierarchy of needs. Maslow believed that much of human behavior can be explained by the individual's tendency to seek personal goal states that make life rewarding and meaningful. In fact, motivational processes is the heart of his personality theory. Maslow in 1970 depicted the human beings as a wanting animal who rarely reaches a state of complete satisfaction except for a short time period. In Maslow's system, as one personal desire is satisfied, another will surface to take its place. When the person satisfies this one, still another will clamor for satisfaction. It is characteristic of human life that people almost always desire something. Maslow proposed that human desires, that is motives, are innately given and are arranged in an ascending hierarchy of priority or potency. The needs are in order of their potency. 1. Basic physiological needs. 2. Safety needs. 3. Belongingness and love needs. 4. Self-esteem needs. And 5. Self-actualization needs or the need for personal fulfillment. Underlying this scheme is the assumption that low-order prepotent needs must be at least somewhat satisfied before an individual can become aware of or motivated by higher-order needs. That is, as one general type of need is satisfied, another higher-order need emerges and becomes operative in the person's life. A description of each need category is presented below. Physiological needs. The most basic, powerful and obvious of all human needs is the need for physical survival. Included in this group are the needs for food, drink, oxygen, activity, sleep, sex, protection from extreme temperatures and sensory stimulations. These physiological drives are directly concerned with the biological maintenance of the organism and must be gratified at some minimum level before the individual is motivated by higher order needs. The chronically hungry person will never strive to compose music, construct personological theories or build a brave new world. Safety needs. Once the physiological needs have been sufficiently satisfied, the individual becomes concerned with a new set often called the safety or security needs. The primary motivating force here is to ensure a reasonable degree of certainty, order, structure and predictability in one's environment. Maslow suggested that the safety needs are most readily observed in infants and young children because of their relative helplessness and dependence on adults. Infants, for instance, respond fearfully if they are suddenly dropped or startled by loud noises or flashing lights. Later, learning and education tend to neutralize such apparent dangers through knowledge. Example, I am not afraid of thunder and lightning because I know something about them. The urgency of safety needs is also evident when a child experiences bodily illnesses of various kinds. A child with a broken leg will temporarily experience fears, have nightmares and manifest a need for protection and reassurance not evident before the accident. Safety needs also exert an active influence beyond childhood. The preference for a job with tenure and financial protection, the establishment of savings accounts and the acquisition of insurance, example, medical, unemployment, old age, may be regarded as motivated in part by safety seeking. At least in part, religious and philosophic belief systems may also be interpreted in this fashion. Religions and philosophies help a person to organize his or her world and the people in it into a coherent and meaningful whole, thus making the person feel safe. Other expressions of the need for safety occur when individuals are confronted with real emergencies, example war, crime waves, floods, earthquakes, riots, societal disorganizations and similar conditions. Belongingness and love needs. The belongingness and love needs constitute the third hierarchical level. These needs arise primarily when the physiological and safety needs are relatively quiescent. An individual motivated on this level longs for affectionate relationships with others, namely for a place in his or her family and or reference groups. Group membership becomes a dominant goal for the individual. Accordingly, the person will feel keenly the pangs of loneliness, social ostracism, friendlessness and rejection, especially when induced by the absence of friends, relatives, a spouse or children. Maslow rejected the Freudian notion that love and affection are derived from sublimated sexual instincts, that is, to Maslow, love is not synonymous with sex. Rather, he contended that love involves a healthy, loving relationship between two people, which includes mutual respect, admiration, and trust. Maslow also stressed that love needs involve both giving and receiving love. Being loved and accepted is instrumental to healthy feelings of worth. Not being loved leads to feelings of futility, emptiness, and hostility. Self-esteem needs. When one's needs for being loved and for loving others have been reasonably gratified, their motivating force diminishes, paving the way for self-esteem needs. Maslow classified these needs into two subsidiary sets, self-respect and esteem from other people. The former includes such things as desire for competence, confidence, personal strength, adequacy, achievement, independence and freedom. An individual needs to know that he or she is worthwhile, capable of mastering tasks and challenges in life. Esteem from others includes prestige, recognition, acceptance, attention, status, reputation and appreciation. In this case, individuals need to be appreciated for what they can do, that is, they must experience feelings of worth because their competence is recognized and valued by others. Again, the hierarchical nature of Maslow's view of motivation needs to be kept in mind. One seeks self-esteem only after one's love and belongingness needs are satisfied. One quickly reverts back from level 4 to level 3 if level 3 need satisfaction is suddenly jeopardized. For example, consider a person who, thinking her love needs are in good order, busies herself with becoming a recognized business tycoon. Suddenly and unexpectedly, her husband leaves her for another woman. Immediately, she casts aside all aspects of self-esteem, behaving like an utter fool in order to regain her husband, that is, satisfy her love needs. Once this relationship is restored or a suitable alternative is developed, however, she is free to reconcern herself with conquering the business world. Satisfaction of the self-esteem needs generates feelings and attitudes of self-confidence, worth, strength, capability and of being useful and necessary in the world. In contrast, the thwarting of these needs leads to feelings and attitudes of inferiority, ineptness, weakness and helplessness. These negative self-perceptions in turn may give rise to basic discouragement, a sense of futility and hopelessness in dealing with life's demands and a low evaluation of self. Self-actualization needs. Finally, if all the foregoing needs are satisfied, the need for self-actualization comes to the fore. Maslow characterized self-actualization as the desire to become everything that one is capable of becoming. The person who has achieved this highest level presses toward the full use and exploitation of his talents, capacities, and potentialities. Otherwise phrased, it is a person's desire for self-improvement, namely his or her drive to become the total kind of person that one wants to become to reach the peak of his or her potential. A musician must make music, an artist must paint, a poet must write if he is to be at peace with himself. What a man can be, he must be. He must be true on his own nature. Self-actualization need not take the form of creative and artistic endeavors. A parent, an athlete, a student or teacher, or an ardent laborer may all be actualizing their potential abilities in doing well what they each can do best, since specific forms of self-actualization vary greatly from person to person. It is at this level of Maslow's need hierarchy that individual differences are greatest. Deficiency needs and growth needs. If you do not have enough of something, then it is said that you feel the need. But if you get all you need, you feel nothing at all. In other words, they cease to be motivating. He also talks about these levels in terms of homeostasis. Homeostasis is the principle by which the bodily system operates. In other words, when it gets too cold, the bodily system switches the heat on, and when it gets too hot, it switches the heat off. In the same way, human body, when it lacks a certain substance, develops a hunger for it. When it gets enough of it, then the hunger stops. Maslow simply extends this homeostatic principle to needs such as safety, belongingness, and esteem, about which do not ordinarily think of in these terms. In terms of overall development, we move through these levels a bit like stages. As newborns, our focus is on the satisfaction of the physiological needs. Soon we begin to recognize that we need to be safe. Some after that, we crave for attention and affection. A bit later, we look for self-esteem. This is in the first couple of years. Under stressful conditions or which survival is threatened, we can regress to a lower need levels. When you find that your great career falls flat, you might seek out a little attention. When your family decides to leave you, it seems that love is again all you ever wanted. If you have significant problems along your development, that is period of extreme insecurity such as hunger as a child or the loss of a family member or significant neglect or abuse, it is possible that one may fixate on that set of needs for the rest of one's life. Growth needs. Maslow has used a variety of terms to refer to the last level of needs. He has called it growth motivation in contrast to deficit motivation. They are called the being needs and self-actualization. These are needs that do not involve balance or homeostasis. They involve the continuous desire to fulfill potential, to be all that you can be. If you want to be truly self-actualizing, you need to have your lower needs taken care of, at least to a considerable extent. This makes sense, which is, if you are hungry, you are scrambling to get food. If you are unsafe, you have to be continuously on guard. If you are isolated and unloved, you have to satisfy that need. If you have a low self-esteem, you have to be defensive or compensate. When lower needs are unmet, you cannot fully devote yourself to fulfilling your potentials. Characteristics of self-actualizing persons. Maslow lists 15 noble characteristics of his self-actualizing persons. They are presented as follows. Efficient perception of reality. Perhaps the most universal characteristic of these superior people is their ability to perceive other people correctly and efficiently, to see reality as it is rather than as they wish it to be. They have a better perception of reality and more comfortable relations with it. They are less emotional and more objective about their perceptions. They do not allow their desires and hopes to distort their observations. Because of their superior perception, self-actualizing people are more readily able to detect the fake, the phony, and dishonest in others. Acceptance of self, others, and nature. The healthy person displays a sense of respect for self and others. Without feeling undue concern, he or she accepts his or her own nature in a stoic style with all its shortcomings, frailties, and weaknesses. There is also freedom from overriding guilt, crippling shame, and debilitating anxiety. Self-acceptance is also vividly expressed at the physiological level. Self-actualizers have hearty appetites, sleep well, and enjoy their sexual lives without unnecessary inhibition. Spontaneity, simplicity, naturalness. The behavior of self-actualizing people is marked by spontaneity and simplicity, by an absence of artificiality or straining for effort. This does not imply consistently unconventional behavior. It is the person's inner life, thoughts, impulses, etc., that is unconventional, natural, and spontaneous. Their unconventionality is not intended to impress others and may even be suppressed in order not to distress others, so that they may even abide by ceremonies and rituals. Thus, they may conform if it means protecting themselves or others from hurt or injustice. Problem centering. Without exception, Maslow found his subjects to be committed to some task, duty, vocation, or beloved job which they regarded as important. That is, they are not ego-centered but rather oriented toward problems beyond their immediate needs, problems to which they are dedicated in the sense of a mission in life. In the sense, they live to work rather than work to live. Their work is subjectively experienced as defining characteristic of themselves. Self-actualizers are also deeply concerned with philosophic and ethical issues. Accordingly, they live and work within the widest frame of reference, tending to devote themselves to non-personal missions or tasks. Detachment, need for privacy. This kind of individual prefers solitude and privacy and even seeks it to a greater extent than the average person. In social encounters, he or she is often viewed by normal people as being aloof, reserved, snobbish, and cold. This is because self-actualizers do not need other people in the usual sense of friendship. They rely completely upon their inner resources and remain unruffled by that which produces turmoil in others. Autonomy, independence of culture and environment. As prior characteristics would suggest, self-actualizing people are not dependent for their main satisfaction on the physical and social environment. Rather, they rely on their own potentialities and latent resources for growth and development. For example, truly self-actualizing college students do not really need the right academic atmosphere on campus to learn. They can learn anywhere they want because they have themselves. Healthy people also have a high degree of self-direction and free will. Continued freshness of appreciation. Maslow discovered that healthy, mature, and adults exhibit a capacity to appreciate even the most ordinary events in their lives with a sense of newness, awe, pleasure, and even ecstasy. They seldom become bored with life experiences. Peak of mystic experiences. Maslow observed that self-actualizing individuals commonly had what he called peak experiences, also termed oceanic feeling. This term referred to moments of intense excitement and high tension as well as to those of relaxation, peacefulness, blissfulness, and stillness. Representing the most ecstatic moments of life, such occurrences usually come from love and sexual climax, burst of creativity, insight and discovery, and fusion with nature. These people can turn on without artificial stimulants. Just being alive turns them on. Social interests. Even though self-actualizers are sometimes troubled, saddened, and even enraged by the shortcomings of the human race, they experience a deep feeling of kinship with humanity. Consequently, they have a genuine desire to help improve the lot of their fellows. This nurturant attitude is evidenced by a feeling of compassion, sympathy, and affection for all humanity. Interpersonal relations. Self-actualizing people tend to form deeper and closer personal relationships than those of the average adult. Similarly, those with whom they associate are likely to be healthier and closer to self-actualization than the average person. That is, self-actualizers are more inclined to associate closely with others of similar character, talent, and capacity. Birds of a feather flock together. Usually, their circle of intimate friends is small, since befriending is a self-actualizing style demands a great deal of time. Democratic character structure. Maslow described his subjects as being democratic in the deepest sense. Since they are free of prejudice, they tend to have basic respect for all persons. Further, they are willing to learn from anybody who is able to teach them, irrespective of class, education, age, race, or political beliefs. At the same time, Maslow discovered that self-actualizers do not indiscriminately equalize all human beings. Discrimination between means and ends. In their day-to-day living, self-actualizing individuals show less confusion, inconsistency, and conflict than the average person about what is right or wrong, good or bad. They have definite moral ethical standards, although very few of them are religious in the orthodox sense of the term. Sense of philosophical humor. Another characteristic common to all Maslow's subjects was a distinct preference for philosophical or cosmic humor. Whereas the average person may enjoy humor that pokes fun at another's inferiority, that hurts or ridicules someone, or that is off color, that is smutty or dirty jokes, the healthy person typically finds humor expressing the foolishness of humanity in general most appealing. Creativeness. Not surprisingly, Maslow found that without exception, creativity was more prominent in self-actualizers than in others. However, the creativeness manifested by his subjects was different from unusual talent or genuine as reflected in poetry, art, music, or science. Maslow likened it to the natural creativeness found in children. This kind of self-actualizing creativity appears in everyday life as an expression of a personality which is perceptive, spontaneous, and childlike. Resistance to enculturation. Finally, Maslow observed that his superior subjects are in harmony with their culture while maintaining a certain inner detachment from it. As essentially autonomous beings, they make their own decisions despite contrary popular opinion. Let me summarize what we discussed so far. This chapter provides a detailed description of the personality theory propounded by Maslow. The chapter discusses the hierarchy of needs in details along with deficiency needs and growth needs. The chapter also highlights the characteristics of self-actualizers. Now you can try to answer the questions given here. What are the two types of esteem needs? Discuss deficiency needs and growth needs. Explain the characteristics of a self-actualized person. Hope that you can go through the reference books given here. Personality Theories, Basic Assumptions, Research and Applications in 1992 by L. A. Hegel and D. J. Segler, McGraw-Hill, New York. Motivation and Personality in 1970 by Abraham Maslow, Harper and Row, New York. Thank you for watching the program. Hope that we can meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.